You guys, I tried to like pat my face down because I know like people made fun of me for like having a greasy face, but are you kidding me? My dog is barking. Okay, listen, my dog does this thing where he waits for me to be comfortable, like sitting down on my couch about to eat or something, or starting the stream, and then starts barking to go outside. It's so ridiculous. So now he wants to go outside again now that I've already started the stream. Dog. All right. 1 second, guys. I'm going to run him out, let him out, and talk to each other, okay? Because this community is cool. So talk to each other. BRB. You want to go outside, girl? All right. Okay. Blakeley would be a great news reported. Would be a great news. Oh, I think you meant reporter. Thank you. Greetings to Jerusalem from Germany. Awesome. All right. So I don't know if you guys saw my story. I posted a story saying that I was going to be online doing this live. And for now, I don't want to mess with Bad Hasbara's time. So maybe I'll change it. I was thinking that for now, I could do Monday and Thursday as like a good live time, you know? Like I could do Monday and Thursday. But I also don't want to step on his thing. So maybe I should do like Tuesday or Thursday. I don't know. Today I've seen a video for Trump. And Trump has committed to Khabib that he would end the war. Yeah, Mohammed, but here's the thing about how full of shit Trump is that in that video with Khabib, he says that he's going to end the war. Right after he just spoke to a bunch of Jewish donors in private like a week ago, telling them that not only would he continue to do everything Biden is doing and more, he would do everything Netanyahu says. And he even said to these donors that he was going to knock the Palestinian movement for freedom back 30 years. So Trump is a liar and he will say anything to anyone, depending on who's in the room. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that drives me fucking crazy about, like, people who are defending Trump. And I'm not saying you're defending Trump, but I've seen a lot of people that are, like, pro-Palestine defending Trump and saying he would somehow be better. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, like, Trump is a full-ass Zionist. Like, a full-on Zionist. Like, he is not going to be better. I made a smoothie. Exactly, O'Day. They always say shit. And here's the thing. Honestly, we might be able to fall for it if Trump had never been president before. but he's been president before. Like, we already saw his policy vis-a-vis Israel. You know what I mean? Like, when he was in office, he was the one that moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He was the one that oversaw the Abraham Accords. He was the one that recognized the Golan Heights and encouraged settlements. So, like, this idea that, like, we don't know what Trump's response would be to the people of Gaza, like, we do know, though. It would be really bad. I just feel like that sometimes people think that just because Biden is terrible, that means that Trump is going to be better, but he's not. Anyway, you know, the two things that I want to talk about today, you guys, it's not only Trump, any president will kiss it. Exactly, Mohammed, exactly. This country, the United States of America, is totally controlled by Zionists. So it really honestly does not matter who the president is. They're going to do what Israel wants them to do, full stop. So there's that. Okay. So two things I really want to talk about today, and I don't know if you've seen any of them. One is, how many of you have heard of the Brianna Wu / Brianna Joy Gray kerfuffle that kind of happened on Twitter the last couple days? Yeah, O'Day, you're right about that. So we're going to have to pull that one up on Twitter. But first, one of the things, I'm sore. But first, one of the things that I want to do, beautiful Rose, it's really good. It's really good. But the first thing I wanted to do was show you guys this interview with this lunatic Israeli something, okay? And she is on a panel with Piers Morgan and Wajahat Ali, I think is his name. And they're talking about Gaza and Rafah, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. So I feel like we need to make fun of this. And I still have not stopped saying. Okay. I don't know. Heard it on Sabs. Honestly, Garami, that's a good point. Garami wrote, do you think that Biden would have even won without the entire mail-in voting thing? Probably not. Probably not. I think a big part of Biden winning was that we had mail-in voting. But also, I think that people, and a lot of people have memory hold this, but people were really tired of Trump's antics during COVID. And that's a big part why Biden won, because he didn't really have to campaign because of COVID. That's not going to be the case this year. All right, are you guys ready for this banger? Not sure. Okay. I still need to figure out how to do this better. Oh, Bat, did you see this? Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay. I'm going to run it through, though, just to the part with her and him. Who is this psychopath anyway? Who is this? Brings deputy permanent observer of the state of Palestine. No, that's the guy he talked to at the beginning. Deputy mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan-Nahoum. Who? Minister of Jerusalem. It is an Israeli politician, expert, and policymaker. Okay. I've seen this person before, and calling her a lunatic is an understatement. Yes. No, you're right. Absolute psychopath. Wait, hold on. I'm going to share this really quick. This is her, what do you call it? Born on September 27, 1973 in London, England. Okay? How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Like, it's just amazing, like, how you can be full ass from a different country and just go to Israel and, like, pretend you're from there. Like, go to Palestine and pretend you're from there. It's like, you're not from there, bro. You're literally from England. Mm. Well, I appreciate that, Mohammed, but the way that they try to harm me, oftentimes, aside from that time I got doxxed, was they just try to shut me down, and they lie about me, and they spread misinformation and smears, and call me horrible names, and they threaten me. That's definitely true. But they try to get me shut down a lot because they don't like me talking, especially since I'm very opinionated and I'm very loud about their lies. So, you know, a great way to support, oh, hey, Zach, a great way to help me protect myself from these people is by just doing what you're doing, like supporting the channel, following me on other social medias, joining my Ko-Fi if you can, to kind of help insulate me from their attacks. Which, by the way, I always appreciate everybody that is here and love all of you guys, and appreciate any super chats or super thanks that you guys want to send me. If you do, if you're able, if not, no big deal. Just support the channel. Okay, so let's make fun of this psycho who's from England. Oh, hey, Chiara. Hey, Amor. Zach. Yes, glad to see you guys. But you know what I find really gross about this whole dual citizenship thing is that you can be born in a different country and then just go to Palestine and claim indigeneity there. But, like, can you imagine, right? And this is why it's so stupid. First of all, I don't even think dual citizenship should be a thing. Like, you should have citizenship in one country, okay? And second of all, if you are a citizen of another country, you're born somewhere, tell me how you just go to another country and just start living there and claim citizenship, okay? I just did a DNA test. From 23andMe. And I found out, which I wasn't surprised by. Somebody just messed up they muted me. The Zionist muted me. Can you guys hear me? Hey, Ruben. Hey, Jem. Hey, Panther. Everybody, I'm so glad you're here. You know, I love you guys. Glad to see you here as we are going over this. Okay, good. You guys can hear me. Okay, awesome. So get this. So I did a DNA test recently. I'd never done one before. And I found out, I'm still kind of confused about the way DNA works because they do it in like percentages, like you're a certain amount of percentage this and a certain amount of percentage this. So basically, what did not surprise me was that I was mostly Irish. Like, not surprising at all, mostly Irish. I have a little bit of French, which I did not know. I don't know where that comes from, but a little bit of French. I was like, ooh, mais oui. I don't know what that means, but it made me feel a little bit fancy. And now that I know that I'm a little bit French, I need French people to stop being so rude to me. Okay. Because French people are always rude to me. It's all stupid American, you know, whatever. But it's like, actually, I just found out that I'm like 10% French. So, okay. Oh, thank you, Chiara. Thank you, Chiara, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Très bon. Thanks, Chiara. Oh, yeah, I forgot to add it. I want to show it. I like to show them like this. Yeah, okay. But like French people literally have always been rude to me. Like they're really condescending. I've never been to France. I would love to go, but like they're always super condescending to me. Like I went to Quebec and they were really condescending and really mean. I've told that story before, but I had no idea that I had any French in me at all I honestly just thought I was mostly Irish because that's my whole dad's side is Irish, and I guess my mom's Irish too, but I don't even know where the French comes from, honestly. I'm still trying to like learn about it, but I was like, oh, that is why I love cheese so much, because I'm French. That is why I love cheese so much. And I'm an alcoholic, I think, because of my dad's side and the Irish in me. Très bien, si es pas grave. That's okay. Must be the French fries. Yes, Mohammed. That's my username on TikTok is cheese fries, because that's my favorite food. But that's because when it comes down to it, I'm American. Okay. That's what it comes down to. I'm just super American. And we Americans, we love our cheese fries. Don't get it twisted. You're just stereotyping yourself. True. I am. People are going to stereotype you. You may as well stereotype yourself and embrace it. People stereotype me all the time. I got called a white cracker when I was a kid, so I actually thought about making that my handle, but I didn't want to get my accounts banned, so yes. Yes, Amor. Are you sure you're just not 10% Wisconsin? Yes, beautiful Rose. You are right that Ireland is the only European country with a lot of soul. Okay. They really are. Like, I didn't know until recently that Ireland had their own language that basically got stripped from them through colonization. That I think Gaelic is what it's called, was like a full ass language that they spoke. And for your information, the cheese in America, not comparable. I know. Frolic, I have heard that so many times that the cheese in France is amazing. I've heard that so many times that it's like so delicious, and I would love to try it, but I've never been to France. I know that ours is all pasteurized and stuff, but oh, you guys are making me jealous. You're making me hungry. I know. I would love to try French cheese. In fact, one of these days, you guys, one of these days, when I do go to France, okay, because I am eventually going to go, I will live stream it and we can try cheese together. Okay. I'm going to live stream it and we'll try cheese together. You'll get to see my first reaction. Okay. Sorry. I got way off track. We need to make fun of this lunatic. I know you can't even send it, because I asked one time somebody, can you send me some French cheese? And they were like, nah. The only have one type of cheese. Okay, you should come here to Ireland. It's expensive as hell, but we're pro-Palestine at least. I know. Tell me about it. I wish I could. I wanted to go to Ireland anyway so that I could like learn about my ancestry. Because I even knew before I took the DNA test. I knew I was Irish. I just didn't know how much. But I would love to go to Ireland. I would love that. Thank you, AK, for the super chat. I appreciate you. Hi, Blakeley. Hi, chat. Except for Biden, he is disowned from Ireland. True. Ireland does not. He's gone. He's been rejected, removed. Okay. No, I've never tried cat cheese. That's crazy. I hear there are buses leaving from NYC to DC at 6 a.m. Go to Spain. That's a nice place. Yeah, that would be nice to go to Spain. Okay, you guys, let's watch this insanely embarrassing interview from this woman. Okay, and I'm not trying to be like an asshole or whatever, but like this woman is super creepy. Like actually really creepy. She kind of looks like a witch. If you guys have ever seen like the Hansel and Gretel kind of like story or whatever, she kind of looks like a witch. Okay. So let me remove the Wikipedia of this British woman who clearly but is claiming indigeneity to Palestine. Okay. The only lunatic X is showing us. Okay. Yeah, AK, she's a terrible person. Actually, I found myself, because I was watching a little bit of it before we get into this. She was pissing me off so much. You know what I mean? Like, she was just, she was pissing me off. All right.
Takes every fiber of my...
From the Gaza Strip by Hamas. That trauma of those atrocities. We still have 124 people every day we discover.
Being displaced from one place to the other, being bombed, besieged, starved to death. And the world still demanding of them that you should do something different. Israel will kill Palestinians, whether they're peaceful, whether they're violent, whether they're tall or small. They will continue killing Palestinians because what they reject is our identity, is our nationhood, is our statehood. And they're not being very discreet about it if you just listen to them.
Ambassador, I appreciate you joining me and being so frank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm joined now by the host of the Democracy-ish podcast, the commentator and columnist Wajah Ali, and Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, the Israel Special Foreign Ministry envoy and former deputy mayor of Jerusalem. Well, let me start with you, Fleur Hassan-Nahoum. I mean, that was powerful stuff there from the ambassador. What's your reaction to what he said?
Well, half of it is lies or delusions. And again, everybody wants to look at this
Fix
in
your
a very
mic,
narrow
bro.
scope of what happened since October 7th, which we are still suffering that trauma of those atrocities. We still have 124 people every day we're discovering dead young people from the concerts. We have a 1-year-old child and a 4-year-old child. But I want to go.
This is what makes me insane about how these people can just get on TV and lie with impunity and nobody says anything. She just made that up. She just made that up. I don't know if you guys heard what she said, but she's all, every single day we're finding more people from the concert. Like, she means more dead people from the concert. You literally just made that up. That's not happening. There are no newly discovered Israelis since October 7th. You just made that up. But this is what makes me insane. These people just get on TV and they just straight up lie like it ain't no thing. And no one says anything. They just let it slide. And yet she says it's lies and delusions on the part of the Palestinians. Okay. The other thing is too, is how she's like, we're still suffering with the trauma from October 7th. How do you think the Palestinians feel that they've been suffering with the trauma of your genocide for the last 8 months, every single day, and there is still no end in sight? Yeah, exactly, AK. It's first of all, every accusation is a confession with them. I say it all the time. I'll continue to say it. But then it's like, oh, well, we're dealing with all this trauma. It's like, but you don't have anything to say about all of the mass graves and all of the people that continue to experience this horrific genocide. Nothing. Oh, yeah, she was.
Further back, 2005, Israel left the Gaza Strip unilaterally in order to give the Palestinians that chance of what they said they wanted. They wanted autonomy.
Okay. First of all, I know that you guys already know this, but maybe somebody will end up coming across this video later that doesn't. They lie all the time. They're all, we gave the Palestinians Gaza and left in 2005. And she repeats that lie multiple times, okay, through this interview. She repeats it over and over and over again. We left Gaza in 2005. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. What? No, you didn't. They're still there. And if you hear, she goes, oh, well, they said they wanted autonomy. Do you call having to go through checkpoints autonomy? Having to get a work permit from your occupier autonomy? Having no airport autonomy? You call having no ability to govern autonomy, no ability to have an air force, an army, a military. You don't control your land, you don't control the air, you don't control the sea, you don't control your own borders, and you call that autonomy. That's not autonomy. That's occupation, and they never left. They're still occupying it. It's just insane. It's just insane. And what pisses me off so much is that whenever they pull this line, oh, well, we left Gaza in 2005, when they did not, okay? No one pushes back on it. No one's like, actually, no, you didn't. It's like they just let the lie stand.
Wanted self-determination. They wanted a state. And let's say that it wasn't a state, it was
exactly,
a state.
TK.
And look what happened. This man who just spoke, his party Fatah
exactly
was brutally removed in 2006 from the Gaza Strip by Hamas, who took over and since haven't had an election. That's been 17 years. Now, the people who live under the Hamas umbrella, they're doing great. And the people who don't live a miserable life. There's, of course, no rights for women. 12-year-old girls are married off. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Now, since 2005, every year we've had a war with Gaza, almost every year. Rockets. Why?
First, thank you, O'Day. I appreciate the super chat. They left the Gaza military and then blocked and besieged. Exactly. Left. We're using left very loosely here. Seriously. And then she's all, they make them marry children and blah, blah, blah. And she just starts like putting out propaganda and lie and lie and lie just to make them sound scary. Because as you guys know, the whole goal of some of this crap is to try to get lost in the weeds and not acknowledge the occupation, but also to always make Muslim people look creepy and scary. Like it's always all, yeah, they make you marry child brides, okay? Like, I can't even tell you guys how many times already, and I don't know how many of you guys are in the United States right now, but they won't shut up about like, oh, well, if you were in Gaza. I mean, they've been doing that since the beginning, but they've been doing it especially since the United States Pride Month started the other day. Okay. Welsh Republic podcast. Hi, thank you for the super chat. I have a podcast that I'm running. I was wondering how you would like to come on for a show and interview to talk about. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Can you email me? I think my email is in my bio, or in the description of my thing. Why does this keep happening? Why do I keep getting muted? I think it's a conspiracy. The Zionists are trying to silence me. Yeah, this whole thing is just to avoid talking about the fact that they're actually occupying them and they don't want to acknowledge their statehood. That's really all this is. Hi. Oh, no. I just messed up my thing. Hopefully, oh, there we go. Also, still calling it a war. Like, bro, this is not a war. It hasn't been a war.
But I want to go further back. 2005, Israel left the Gaza Strip unilaterally in order to give the Palestinians that chance of what they said they wanted. They wanted autonomy, they wanted self-determination, they wanted a state. And let's say that it wasn't a state, it was a statelet. And look what happened. This man who just spoke, his party Fatah were brutally removed in 2006 from the Gaza Strip by Hamas. Over, and since haven't had an election. That's been 17 years. Now, the people who live under the Hamas umbrella, they're doing great. And the people who don't live a miserable life. There's, of course, no rights for women. 12-year-old girls are married off. I mean,
really removed an election.
Now, since 2005, Every year, we've had a war with Gaza, almost every year. Rockets. Why are they firing rockets? If we left that strip for them. And it goes back to what you mentioned to your speaker, which is the charter of Hamas is not a two-state solution.
First of all, I am genuinely tired of hearing of the Hamas charter. Like, I am really tired of hearing of hearing about the Hamas charter from the 80s. First of all, Hamas remade their charter in like 2017. That's number one. And number two, I'm tired of hearing that as a catch-all for like, yeah, but they said they wanted to destroy us when you guys literally openly say you want to destroy them. Like, why are we still talking about the charter from the 80s when now in 2024, Israel is talking about destroying the Palestinians? Like the gaslighting, though. It's always endless gaslighting. Like, oh, but what about the Hamas charter from 1987? And then it's all, that's why we have to occupy them. That's why we have to terrorize them. That's why we have to continue to put our boot on their neck because something hashtag charter of 1987, but they never want to discuss the charter of 2017. And they also never want to discuss the fact that they talk like that about Palestinians now. It's insane. It's so insane. Like, yes, exactly. Exactly, O'Day. You're right about Hamas, that they won the election and then Fatah tried the military coup because the United States was one of the countries pushing the people of Gaza to have an election. And then the United States was upset and surprised that Hamas won. I know. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Fuwa wrote, like, they still control the people in the West Bank, but they can never answer that. You know what I mean? They never want to answer that ever. Whenever somebody's like, what about the occupation? Or what about the West Bank, the occupied West Bank? How come you guys are terrorizing people there? They never have an answer for that. Because what they don't want to say out loud, but they will sometimes say it out loud, is that they want to destroy all of Palestine, all of historic Palestine, and take it. That's what they want. But then we have to sit here and listen to them go, but the Hamas charter of 1987. How about the stated policy of Israel in 2024? Like, it's so embarrassing. Yeah, exactly. And all the squatters from fucking Brooklyn that come in and just go to Palestine and just take someone's house. Like, it's just crazy. Blakeley, if you visit the West Bank, you'd never make it out alive. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. There's like a part of me that like I would love to go to the occupied West Bank and meet Palestinians and like see it. Go to Jerusalem, But I think that IOF soldier would probably snipe me. Like they know who I am, and I feel like they would probably accidentally like shoot me or something. Yeah, exactly. They did. They don't say anything about it. This woman is such a liar.
Hamas is from the river to the sea, the destruction not just of Israel, but of all the Jews in the world. And if all the Jews happen to be in Israel, even better, more convenient. But let's look at the PA as well. And let's look at why we're in this mess to begin with. The Palestinians have rejected statehood 5 times, from the 1930s to then on to the Oslo Accords to 2001, when Ehud Barak offered them. They're talking about the 1967 lines. That's exactly what Ehud Barak offered Yasser Arafat. And instead of saying yes, he goes.
The other thing they do is they repeat lies and talking points over and over and over again. And if you try to talk about it or try to like push back on it, they literally just yell over you. It's like the colonization. They're such colonizers that and they're so used to their entitlement that they can't even let people talk. They've got to like colonize the airtime.
the streets and releases suicide bombers and maims and kills innocent people in the streets of Jerusalem, my city. Now, let's say you're not happy with
Jerusalem
that
is
deal.
not your city, bro. Jerusalem is an occupied territory. So, and you're from London. Okay. So the other thing is about that is that they also love to bring up the past, like talk about the suicide bombings that happened in Israel in, what was it, the early 90s and then late 90s or early 2000s, like during the intifadas. But they love to bring those up when that hasn't happened in forever. Like, this is the gaslighting. Like, let's talk about suicide bombings that happened decades ago, but let's not talk about the actual insane bombings of refugee camps happening right now. Right now. Like, they always want to talk about the past. They never want to talk about what's happening right now. Like, half the people that are like Hamas militants weren't even born in 2000 or 1999.
So you're almost there. You're about to get a state, but you don't agree with this or that. Wouldn't you go back to the negotiating table if that's what you really want?
They did.
You start an urban warfare.
Yeah, you're right.
Move forward. 2005, Israel leaves the Gaza Strip.
No, they didn't.
Another peace deal offered by Ehud Olmert, going even further than
these are Hamas. That's
and
why.
them saying no again. So my conclusion is, and the conclusion of a lot of people in this country who are fatigued by this attempt that they are saying that they want to stay.
You think you're fatigued?
The crux of the problem is not that there isn't a Palestinian state. The crux of the problem is that there's a Jewish state that they have never ideologically accepted exists.
No.
And in their educational system, he talks that they want peace.
Now we're going to do the educational system bit.
He talks that they want
Seriously?
peace. Why is in the educational system talk about the right to return and the destruction of the state of Israel?
First
of
all,
what they want. Why are they telling the people exactly?
It literally is the same talking points over and over again. They just scream over people, right? That is their whole strategy, okay? Their whole strategy is to just scream over people with the same stale talking points they've been using for decades. And then they lie. Oh, the education system is teaching their kids this and teaching their kids that. They've been repeating that BS for decades. And it's like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. They'll be like, oh, what about the education system? We left Gaza in 2005. No, you didn't. What about Hamas? What about the charter? It's like they just keep throwing things to see what sticks. It's
the opposite.
Okay, let me bring in Wajah Ali. You've been waiting very patiently. I mean, there's a question in that which I think is a very valid one, which I also asked the ambassador. You know, he seems to think that you can have post-war a situation where Hamas still form part of a government, governing in Gaza, for example. I just don't think Israel's ever going to wear that, and I completely understand why they would feel that way, and I'd agree with them. Do you think it's possible to have Hamas as forming any part of a government in Gaza after this?
It's not up to you.
The year is 2024. Israel has occupied Palestinians in East Jerusalem, in West Bank, and in Gaza for nearly 60 years. In the West Bank, there is no Hamas. Hamas does not control it. What is Israel's excuse? Over 500 people have died. No one's talking about that right now because of the gender.
Also, yeah, chat, you were just saying like the whole thing about how like every accusation is a confession, especially when it comes to the school thing. It's like, yes, exactly. I've seen so many videos of settlers teaching their kids this heinous stuff about Palestinians. I have yet to see the so-called curricula that's talking about killing Jews. Like, it's like they teach that kind of shit to their kids and then they turn around and say the Palestinians are doing it.
Genocide in Gaza, they have expanded settlements. Palestinians live under apartheid law. You know this. In Gaza, over the past 7 months, Piers, over 36,000 people have died. You and I have seen it. You and I have been outraged by it. You and I have seen the burned bodies in Rafah. Over 80,000 people have been injured. Over 1.5 million people have been displaced. As long as there is an occupation, even if you get rid of Hamas, and as we have seen in the past 7-8 months, Hamas will not be destroyed. They have been weakened, But Israel has already failed in its war because, as we have seen, Hamas will not be destroyed. Even if Hamas gets destroyed, something else will pop up. I'll give you an example. Early 80s, Lebanon. They went to Lebanon. Israel went to Lebanon, laid devastation. What happened? PLO got weakened. What rose in its place, Piers? You remember, Hezbollah. Who has been supporting Hamas, specifically as a counter to Arab nationalism?
Exactly.
Israeli government. Who has been supporting and funding Hamas? Benjamin Netanyahu. So who here the ICC has said has committed war crimes? Netanyahu and the leaders of Hamas. The reality is, unfortunately, as much as all of us hate Hamas, and we do, it has committed terrorism against Israel. Right now, the problem is the occupying power, occupying Palestinians. And
listen, I know this guy has to say that, whatever, because I think he like works with people like who support Israel, whatever. But first of all, speak for yourself. Not all of us condemn them. Not all of us hate them. So yeah, don't say all of us. Second of all, it is way more than 36,000. We've been hearing them say 36,000 for 2 months. 2 months. Yeah, I do not condemn but Hamas. And I don't like think like people are like, oh, well, you know, it's because we have to because they're terrorists. Again, I would really implore everyone who is watching this or who sees it in the future that we really need to ask ourselves why we view our definition of terrorism the way that we do. Okay? They are resisting occupation and oppression. That is not terrorism. Terrorism, by its definition, is when you terrorize a civilian population for the sake of just political aims. That is not what they are doing. What they are doing is resisting a brutal occupation. Very different. But in the West, what we do is we play games with definitions of the word terrorism, depending on who we like and don't like. So Netanyahu's not a terrorist, but Putin is. Like, be so for real. Be so for real. Thank you, O'Day. No, we don't condemn Hamas. But go on, Wajahat.
And I will say this. Israel should call out Hamas's bluff. Hamas said, if Israel accepts 2 states...
But he is right about that. Wajahat is right about that when he says every single aim that Israel has had since this genocide started has been a big, fat failure. Fail. Epic fail. They said they were going to eradicate Hamas. How's that going? It's not going. And they're not going anywhere. They also said that they were going to bring their hostages back. Have they? Have they? Have they? No, they haven't. They haven't done anything.
We will lay down our arms. All right, call Hamas's bluff. Last month, Hamas said, we accept Qatar and Egypt's peace plan. Antony Blinken said it was very, very generous. Who torpedoed it? Netanyahu. We just saw on Friday, President Biden, who has been weakened, humiliated, and mocked.
He's so embarrassing. Biden is so embarrassing. Exactly. And in the same way that the Zionists love to say, oh, all the deaths of the civilians in Palestine are on the head of Hamas. No, it's not. You're the ones with the weapons and you're the ones dropping the bombs. But the hostages that are probably dead, unfortunately, those deaths are on Israel. Because they're the ones who are dropping the bombs, and they're the ones who have made it their mission to employ the Hannibal Directive and have thought it more important to kill Palestinian civilians than they have to bring their hostages back. So spare me. Like, anyone can spare me with that. I think it's sad that a lot of the hostages have been killed. But a lot of the hostages that have been killed have been by Israel, including the 3 that had escaped somehow and were waving white flags and were killed by the Israeli regime when they were trying to escape. Oh, hey, JT. Okay, so Walton wrote, some people some people in Hamas committed war crimes. I don't agree with their overall ideology. I was in the US Navy, didn't fully agree with their ideology either. Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter if we don't agree with their ideology or not, right? Like, that's the thing that's so crazy about it, is that people are always saying like, oh, well, we don't agree with Hamas's ideology, therefore we should be able to control the Palestinians, or we should be able to destroy everything they have and refuse to give them a state. Or it's okay if we kill them, because this is one I hear a lot. Because in case any of you guys didn't know, I am non-binary. I am a part of the LGBTQ plus community. Pride just started here in the United States on the 1st. And I will hear all the time from Zionists, because the fact that I'm non-binary is in my profiles on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and here, they'll go, oh yeah? Well, how could you defend the Palestinians when if you were in Gaza, they would kill you? First of all, I don't even believe that. But second of all, that doesn't give you the right, just because they don't believe something, to take away their human rights and their autonomy. Like, that's the point. The point that I try to get across to the Zionists, although it never does because they keep repeating the same talking points all the time over and over again, is I don't care if I don't agree with Hamas's ideology. I don't care if maybe Palestinians would hate me or not like me because I'm a Westerner and I am LGBTQ+. I don't care, because they're allowed to feel that way. They're allowed to not like my religion. They're allowed to not like my lifestyle or my gender identity. They're allowed to not agree with anything that I believe. One has nothing to do with the other. A has nothing to do with B. Regardless of how I would feel about Palestinian ideology when it comes to Hamas, or the laws that might govern Gaza, or how they feel about me, that has nothing to do with human rights. They still deserve human rights, and they deserve autonomy regardless of what their ideology is. Did that make sense? Like, I feel like there's always this negotiating the Palestinians' humanity is what I'm saying. Like, it's always this, let's negotiate the Palestinians' humanity because they don't agree with us on shit. So, like you should not be able to take away someone's human rights and take away someone's autonomy and their dignity because you don't like the ideology of their leadership. There are a lot of places that do not like the United States and the things that we believe in this country. I wouldn't be like, okay, it's totally cool if you bomb Texas. I don't like Texas's ideology. I don't like the conservative ideology in Texas. I don't want to bomb them over it. I don't want to take away their rights over it. Like, please. You don't get to negotiate people's human rights. Right, exactly, Fawa. And then they go, why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? They hate us because they hate us. Like, people actually said that in mainstream media before. Oh, why do they hate us? Why? They hate us because of our freedoms. Do they? Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, and then they'll be all, Israel has pride. You don't get to like pretend that you're all like, oh, I'm for pride and whatever, and Israel has pride, when A, gay marriage isn't even legal in Israel, and B, you run an apartheid state. Like,
and ridiculed by his greatest ally, more like an enemy, Netanyahu, the next day, Saturday, Piers, who rejected Israel's own peace plan, Netanyahu. So I'm telling you, as long as Israel occupies Palestinians and Israel chooses to occupy Palestinians, and Netanyahu and the government say no two states, There will always be resistance. That's the reality we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Okay, bring Fleur back in here. I mean, I
yeah, but that's what I'm
Hamas
trying to
should form
say.
part of
Someone
any
just wrote like
government
people
after
hate
this.
the, you know, whatever, the leadership or whatever. But that's what I'm trying to say. Even if I hated the leadership of Palestine, of Gaza, which I don't, I believe in Hamas's right to defend themselves and their right to resist colonial occupation. But even if I hated them, who gives a shit? That's like your opinion, man. That's like my opinion, man. Regardless of how I or anyone feels about Hamas or any other leadership, it is not our right to tell the Palestinians how to govern themselves. It is not our right to tell the Palestinians how and who they should elect. And to use whatever the Palestinians may believe or what their leadership believes as a reason to take away their human rights and dehumanize them is disgusting and absurd. And it's a standard we don't hold any other country to. Any other country to. We have a queer movement in Palestine now. Yes, that is true. O'Day, thank you again for the super chat. And that is a great point. There are queer people in Gaza, okay? There are queer people in Palestine. Like, being gay is not like, or being queer or any kind of other gender identity is not just something that happens in the West. Like, queer people exist there too. But so many people in the West are just so brain fried that they think that like all of these, like none of these things exist in Palestine. When I talk about not condemning Hamas, I am talking about their resistance to the genocide and to their occupation. I'm not talking about whatever the leadership of Hamas living in Qatar is doing. I'm not talking about them, and I'm not talking about their religious views. I'm talking about the right of an oppressed people, the militants specifically, the Al-Qassam brigades, the ones who are actually in Gaza resisting colonial occupation from this terrorist entity. Those are the people I'm saying I do not condemn.
I think they abrogated.
Why is this muted? Excuse me.
Their right to govern anything, frankly, but what happened on October the 7th. But I also think that Israel's current government is full of people who are, I would label, extremists, whether it's Smotrich or Ben.
Right. Sorry to keep pausing it on you guys, but that's another thing that's so ridiculous. Is how come we're always having this conversation being like, Hamas can't stay in power. Hamas can't stay in power. We've got to do something about Hamas. There is no way that they can stay in power because of what happened on October 7th. But we don't say that about Israel. Like, how come we don't say that about Israel? How come we're not like, Israel can no longer be in power? Netanyahu, his entire government, the entire government of the Israeli regime can no longer be in power because of all the people they killed. They need to be taken over by Saudi Arabia. We don't say that. We only say it about Hamas.
Or even increasingly Netanyahu himself, who, let's not forget, is facing corruption charges the moment this war's over. All the polling says that Israelis support the war on Hamas, but don't want him to continue as prime minister at the end of it. There's no motivation for him to end this war. In fact, the motivation is quite the opposite. And it's quite clear from the rhetoric of people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir that they speak in virtual genocidal terms themselves. So, yeah, I'm all in favor of Hamas being removed completely from any power. But I don't understand why any sensible person on the Israeli side would see that it would be good for anything going forward, particularly a two-state solution.
I think you can respond
to have people like Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben-Gvir anywhere near a government. What do you say to that?
Well, the thing is, Piers, we're a democracy. And democracy, we have elections. Just because Hamas had an election and the PA haven't had an election in what, 19 years? Hamas haven't had an election in 17 years. We have elections. The people speak and they elect the leaders that they want. But it's very, very interesting how everybody's putting the blame on Netanyahu and this government when previous governments, some on the left, also were rejected. Also, the Palestinian leadership rejected statehood. What was the excuse then?
They didn't reject statehood. And yeah, if you want to play that game, yeah, it wasn't just Netanyahu. It was every Israeli leader. And yeah, all of them have been playing this game. It's just that Netanyahu is even more extreme. His cabinet is literally psychotic. So it's like even more extreme. But there never was a real offer to give Palestinians their liberation. That's just more talking points from these goons.
Why don't we ask ourselves, what is the fundamental reason why Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas have said no to very generous peace deals? What is the reason why Hamas have rejected now a ceasefire deal 5 times?
How come all of a sudden, even though she's from England, she says Hamas and Mahmoud Abbas?
Blinken did say that the deals were very generous, but it was Hamas who rejected it. And then they magically accepted a deal that we didn't even offer. And again, trying to manipulate the media. And so again, the question is not this government. It's very easy to blame this government right now. They're an easy target. What was the problem with the Ehud Barak government? What was the problem with the Ehud Olmert government? What was the problem with the Rabin government?
Well, they didn't kill nearly 40,000 Palestinians in 8 months.
First of all, please, Piers, we know that the numbers have gone up and down like yo-yos. Even the UN said last week that it wasn't already 35, how many do you think have been killed? That it was 20. All I can say to you is,
how many do you think have been killed?
She doesn't know.
I would say potentially around 20,000 because that's what the UN
have
said.
No idea.
22,000.
You have no idea.
Let's not start with this line of questioning.
Actually, I'm going to start with this line of questioning.
I don't think Churchill knew in the middle of the Second World War how many Germans he'd killed. And so this is a farcical question. What I can tell you is
you just gave me a number, but you've no idea why you've got that number.
That's what the UN says. The UN says, according to the so-called Gaza Health Ministry, let's take their number. Let's take the number, the mistaken, corrected number of the Gaza so-called Health Ministry, all terrorists underground, hiding like cowards. But let's say now they're saying 22,000. We know we've killed 14,000 terrorists.
No, you don't.
Now you tell me.
Don't.
Yes, we do.
No, you
yes,
don't.
we do. So you tell me.
No,
we know
I'm sorry. I'm not having that. I pressed the Israeli.
We know how many brigades.
Hang on.
We know how many brigades we've gotten rid of. We know how many brigades.
I'm going to respond to you.
See what I mean?
I did.
We know how many brigades.
I put this to an Israeli government spokesman. I asked him, how many Hamas have you?
See what I mean? These fucking people never let anyone finish. They just talk over other people over and over and over again. They just fucking keep talking over and over and over again over everybody and repeating their vomit talking points. It's so annoying. Shut up, lady. My gosh.
Killed, and he gave me this figure, and I said, how many civilians have you killed? And he had no idea. I said, well, then how can you be so precise about how many terrorists you've killed? You can't. If you've got no idea how many civilians you've killed, why should I believe a word about the numbers of Hamas?
Because we know how many brigades they have, because we have that intelligence. We know how many brigades.
So just to be clear, to be clear, you know exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you have no idea how many civilians.
We estimate, absolutely. We estimate.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Sailor Jerry, for the super chat. That's very kind. I cannot stand that with me either. She's really insufferable. Like, it's really next level. I can't stand the way she talks, her like fake accent.
That there's about 14,000 terrorists, which we've gotten rid of. We know how many are left. There's 4 brigades, and that's why we're in Rafah.
And how many civilians have you killed?
The UN, again, Piers, in the middle of the Second World War, I don't think you could have pushed Churchill.
You're doing it as well.
Ask him.
Sorry, Fleur.
What am I doing?
You're doing the same thing the government spokesman did. You know exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you've no idea how many civilians.
We don't know exactly.
How convenient.
We don't know exactly.
How convenient. That Israel knows exactly how many terrorists you've killed, but you've no idea how many innocent women and children.
Do you believe the UN numbers?
Huh?
Do you believe the UN
I
numbers?
just find it staggering that you'll all come
Do
on
you
and
be-
say to me,
I
we
find it
know we've
staggering
killed
You don't believe the UN numbers.
14,126
UN
mass,
Hamas.
but we've
Because
no
we
idea
know-
how many civilians.
Because we know what the army that we're dealing with is. We know what the
No,
terrorist
I'm
army
sorry,
that
it's
we're dealing with
nonsense
is.
to say you can count one and not the other.
Absolutely not. It's
I do love that even Piers Hamas Morgan is like, oh my gosh, you're doing it too. So you know for a fact how many militants you've killed, but you don't know how many civilians you have killed. And then she's like, yeah, absolutely. And yes, of course, then there's going to be more lies, more deflection, more but Hamas, more. Do you believe the UN's numbers? Bro, you don't believe the UN's numbers. You called the UN Hamas. And then bringing up World War II, the famous World War II example, like this is anything like it. And that's the other thing. They love to bring up World War II when it was because of World War II that we put the Geneva Conventions in place. The whole point of that in starting the UN was so that something like the World War II would never happen again, because that's how bad it was. We decided as a society and as a world that we weren't going to find it acceptable to have that level of death anymore. But they love to go, what about World War II? What about Winston Churchill? You know, they're always still doing that. And she's still claiming that they know how many militants they killed, but they don't know how many civilians they had. It's actually funny that it's actually kind of funny that he even got annoyed.
nonsense to even ask the
nonsense.
question. I don't know who in the middle of a war starts counting.
You're
starts counting the
counting.
people that they've killed.
Yeah, you are
counting.
We know how many are left.
Sorry,
We
you're
know
counting,
how
but you're
many-
only counting one side.
True.
Piers, you seem to be a little obsessed with this.
Yeah,
counting
I'm
of
obsessed with
numbers.
how many civilians are being
Let's say,
killed.
all right, let's say we
What
take
kind of
the so-called
response is
Gaza help.
that? What kind of response is that? He's like, why don't you tell me how many civilians have been killed? She's like, geez, Piers, you're so obsessed with me. You're so obsessed with me. Why are you so obsessed with me? That's not a response. That's not a response.
Ministry's
Clown shit.
numbers. The corrected version. Do you remember what that is now?
That was the number of people they could actually put a name to,
The
right?
corrected. The
So they
corrected
could put a name
version.
to.
Version.
So we-
Again, another lie from this lying liar. They never had a corrected version of the number of civilians that have been killed in Gaza. What they had was a number that they were able to put names to. And there are so many people that they have not been able to put names to because of things like, I don't know, decapitating babies, because they actually decapitated Palestinian babies, because of incineration, blowing people up, all the people stuck under the rubble. So no, they haven't been able to put names to everybody that's been murdered there. But she's going to lie and she's going to say, oh no, they revised the count.
And you think that's the total number of civilians killed?
The last time I was on your show, you had Barghouti saying that there was 40, 50, 60,000 dead. Let's just add numbers on, because why not? Everybody will believe you anyway. And then we had the corrected version of the numbers, which went down to about 22,
No,
24,000.
they were the names of people. They were the ones they could put a name to. They don't know how many people are lying in rubble still.
Exactly.
They have no idea. People have been killed.
We know how many.
People have been killed in
how big the
gigantic
Hamas
numbers
army
week
was.
in, week out.
We know how
You know
we
that,
know
and I
how
know that.
big was.
I've interviewed
know how
doctors.
big-
I've interviewed
we know
doctors
how big the
in
Hamas
hospitals
army were.
saying 500 people have been brought in every single day. But what staggers me, Fleur, what staggers me is that you, like the government spokesman I interviewed, you are certain you know exactly how many terrorists you're killing, but you've no idea how many civilians. Let me bring you Wajah.
How big the army. We know how big. Let me
no,
finish.
I'm going to come to Wajah.
Let
I'm
me
giving you a
finish.
chance.
Bitch, you haven't shut up.
No, can't just keep talking.
When Al-Shifa Hospital was
But she
bombed
will.
by
Yeah,
the
we're not going back
Palestinians,
again to
they
that.
said there were 500 dead. The next day,
Yes.
when it turned out to be
I know.
Keep
a
going.
Hamas
Keep
rocket,
going.
I know.
there were 26 dead.
I know.
Think about that every
I am
time you
thinking
believe the
about that.
numbers.
Yeah. Let me come to Wajah. This is my problem with when I get
rest
into
of the world-
numbers with the Israeli side, is that they seem to be utterly emphatic in their knowledge of how many terrorists they're killing, but no idea how many civilians.
Why does my screen keep getting muted? What is happening? I actually like these debates because these people show their whole asses during them. Their whole asses.
And almost don't care.
The only thing I hate is that I wish that Piers but Hamas Morgan would mute their asses. Because if you notice, and I'm sure you have, you only see the right-wing Zionists cutting people off. You never see like the people on the pro-Palestinian side cutting off the Zionists. It's only on one side that these people try to colonize all the airtime and speak over everybody. And he could mute their mics, but he doesn't. Yeah, but I like actually seeing these because I think it's good to see them show their whole asses and what sociopaths they are.
Of war. Churchill didn't count.
The fog of war was used by the UN, not us.
Well,
when they were
I'm asking
justifying,
sorry.
when they were
Oh,
justifying
that's
your
convenient.
You could let him
numbers,
speak,
that
please.
was their expression.
Let him
That was
speak.
their expression.
Let him speak, please. Roger.
It's not that they almost don't care, Piers. It's that they don't care.
Thank
And
you.
we know that the number is probably higher than 36,000 people killed. You and I have eyes. The world has eyes. We have seen Rafah get bombed. We have seen the charred bodies. We have seen Israel bomb
they don't
churches,
like that.
mosques, refugee camps. We have seen Israel kill the staff of World Central Kitchen and then say, oops,
Yeah, that kind of
we have seen Israel occupy Palestinians in the West Bank. There's no Hamas in the West Bank. What's Israel's excuse for killing over 500 people in the West Bank with Ben Gvir handing out, excuse me, with Ben Gvir handing out weapons to extremist settlers? Listen, of course you know, but to you, can I just say, but to you, Hamas doesn't control the West Bank. Facts, please. But to you, every Palestinian is a terrorist. You don't care about the women. You don't care about the children. You don't care about the majority of people that have been killed are civilians. To you, it's all terrorists. This is the okay, but
you don't know who I am, and you don't know what I've been doing for the last 4 years. Shut up. Literally, no one cares. No one cares who you are and what you've been doing the last 4 years. And the reason why she is yelling over him is because he is making a point. He is making a point. He is talking about what's actually happening, and she don't like that. She don't like that because the West Bank is occupied. That's why we call it the occupied West Bank. But Hamas is there. Well, you guys think everyone is Hamas. You guys think everything is Hamas. Bees are Hamas. The UN is Hamas. The rubble is Hamas. So, I'm not really going to take what you have to say at face value. There are militant groups that are in the occupied West Bank, but it ain't Hamas. I know, right, Mohammed? Like, for real. Like, as if Israel isn't constantly hovering over everything the Palestinians do in the occupied West Bank. But again, when she gets called on her shit, she just starts repeating herself over and over and over again. Repeat yourself over and over again.
I can judge you by. Can I just finish? I let you. I didn't say a word.
Can you let him finish his point?
I didn't say a word.
Keep talking over him, Fleur.
Bro,
let him finish his point.
He's lying.
First of all,
well, he listened to you.
Oh, he's lying.
So let him speak.
This is what I say: is she represents the general psychopathy of the Israeli government.
True.
Where they come on television and they think the rest of the world actually is like them, that they don't see Palestinians as humans, and they say these talking points. And Piers, sometimes when you invite me to debate, I sit here and go, I don't have to say a word because they're undermining themselves and their own cause in front of the global stage right now. I mean, the fact that she knows, but like somehow magically they're all terrorists. But when you ask them repeatedly, well, how can you not know how many civilians there are? And they say, well, we don't know. What civilians? And then she goes to World War II, compares Palestinian moms and children to Germans, to Nazis. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You're talking about mosques and you're talking about churches.
You're talking about mosques and you're talking, shut. Okay? Shut it. And then she's like, oh, well, mosques and churches. It's like, yeah, exactly. It's so stupid when they bring up World War II. World War II has nothing to do with what this is like. But they don't know how to do anything else except for go, World War II, Dresden, Hamas. So what you're saying is the Palestinian baby that you beheaded is Hitler? Like...
hostages and you're talking about schools, and you fail to mention that that's exactly where Hamas hide. Not just that, they build mosques on top of tunnels, on top of terrorist installations. You want to ignore
Terrorist
the fact that Hamas
installations.
are cynically using their own
Amazing.
people. They use their people as a defense strategy. They're using our hostages.
So
as a
Israel
defense
bombs
You
Rafah
strategy.
and
guys
kills
use people
kids?
as human shields.
So Israel bombs
bombed
World Central
2
Kitchen staff?
terrorists. Israel bombed 2 terrorists. A kilometer away, there was a fire that was made by munitions that were in a place that they shouldn't have been. And that
Actually,
is
you don't know
Hamas.
all that.
There is
You don't know
nobody
that.
you
That's
can
not
blame.
been established
There
as
is an
fact.
ongoing investigation
Sorry, that's
right
not.
now.
Sorry.
But all I know is
I like how again she just keeps yakking. Like, so she lies, and thankfully, because he usually doesn't, Piers actually stops her and calls her out and is like, that hasn't been established, because it hasn't been established. And she just keeps talking. The strategy is to just keep talking, even if you are lying.
Again, to
you
correct
don't know what
you, Fleur,
happened either.
that has
You
not.
don't know what happened either.
No,
Piers.
nor do you. So you
But
accept
he's
you
not
don't.
pretending to know what
We are at the
happened.
moment
Sorry, you
investigating.
just accepted
We
you
know-
don't.
We know that it was a kilometer away from where
You
we
just
bombed.
said you
We
didn't
know
know what
that.
happened either. In other words, nor do you.
No, we are doing an investigation.
Right, it's
because
not
Israel is
concluded.
the
So how
country
can you
to
say these
law
things
and
are
order.
facts?
And then
The only
Because I'm
fact,
a
the only
liar,
Piers
fact,
can ask
Piers,
him why
I'm
did
a
if I may
liar.
finish, if I may
Israel
finish,
is
if I may finish,
indiscriminately
Fleur,
bombing children.
if I may
That is
finish,
wrong.
if I may finish, the only fact is that 45 innocent people in the refugee camps were killed at the same time as
Exactly.
apparently 2 Hamas terrorists. I don't call that a very good percentage. Do you?
No, but it wasn't a strategy, and it
Oh,
is not.
sure.
But when you
what
bomb
they
a
aim to do.
refugee
Whereas
camp,
Hamas
that
on
is
the
a
October
strategy.
7th,
When you bomb a refugee camp,
no,
it is a
we did not
strategy.
bomb a refugee camp. We
I want, here's the challenge, for one of these Zionist lunatics to have to debate about what's going on without invoking Hamas. Because he just said, you guys killed people at a refugee camp. And she goes, yeah, you know what? It was an accident. But Hamas! But Hamas! I would love to be able to tell them to debate and not be allowed to use Hamas as a strategy. Like that can't be a talking point. I get, like, they would probably fall apart. They probably wouldn't be able to do it.
bombed 2
Who are in a
terrorist
refugee camp.
zone. They were a kilometer away from the humanitarian
They were
zone.
in a refugee camp.
They were in a kilometer away from the humanitarian
In
zone.
I'm just
a
gonna-
refugee camp.
I'm just going to keep repeating the lie. I'm just going to keep repeating the lie. I guess I'll just keep repeating the lie. That's her strategy, to keep repeating the lie. Also, how much is a kilometer? I always forget it, like in mile terms. How long is that? How far is that? She looks like a witch.
Where we moved people in order to put
You
them out
moved
of
them
harm's
there
way,
and then you killed
whereas
them.
Yeah.
Hamas keeps them in
0.6
harm's
miles. Thank
way.
you, Mohammed.
When babies were baked in ovens on October 7th, that was a strategy. When Israel tries to weed out the terrorists, and there are unfortunately casualties, it's not a strategy. That is not what we aim to do.
those
But
casualties
Hamas
are
knows-
This was probably the part that infuriated me the most during this debate, was that outrageous lie that has been debunked over and over and over again, including by Israeli media outlets. They are still repeating. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting and so outrageous. And they still do it. And neither one of them pushed back on it. That is definitely the most infuriating part of this entire debate, was when this liar said the lie again about baked babies. They didn't push back on it. Wajahat Ali did not say anything. Piers Morgan did not say anything, despite the fact that it has been debunked over and over and over again from the beginning, including by Israeli media. And yet they are able to go out there and continue these lies and continue this propaganda and continue these atrocity hoaxes, and no one pushes back on it. These people should not be able to go on any media outlet, any fucking media outlet. They should not be able to do it and lie and purport their atrocity propaganda and all their agitprop and all the bullshit that they spout about mass rape hoaxes and babies in ovens without getting serious pushback. They should get pushback every single time because, again, it was debunked within like a week of October 7th from Israeli press that lie about babies in ovens. And yet she comes on here on Al Gore's internet in 2024 in June and is still lying about the beheaded babies hoax. And neither of them said shit. Unacceptable. So unacceptable.
Beheaded babies in Rafah.
That really?
Yes,
that bomb
really.
dropped in Rafah tent.
I saw a beheaded baby
and babies were beheaded.
No, Wajahat. First, your response should have been, that was already debunked. It was a lie. It got retracted within days. And then get to by the way, we've all seen the videos of the beheaded children in Rafah. We've all seen it. We've all seen the videos of the beheaded babies in Rafah. But of course, conveniently, very conveniently, she's still talking about the beheaded babies in ovens hoaxes from back in when this first happened that was debunked literally within days. But then conveniently, when they bring up the fact that there actually are and have been multiple videos that have gone viral of actually beheaded babies in Rafah, she just happens to have not seen it. Very convenient. Super convenient. She just happened not to see it.
Horrific.
That's what happened in Rafah.
Really?
And you know why they went to Rafah, Piers?
So hang on.
Fleur,
hang on. Fleur, just to be clear, are you denying that there were any video footage of a baby beheaded?
I have not seen anything.
Really?
And I know that the Israeli army would never do anything like that.
No, sorry, the baby's head was blown off.
Oh, okay. Listen, when there's
killed
a bomb...
36,000 Palestinians.
Okay, listen. That's her response. I don't believe it. Well, why don't you believe it? Because the Israeli army would never do anything like that. Apparently, this witch has not been on the Israeli army's TikTok. Because if she had spent any time on the Israeli army's TikTok or Instagram or social media accounts, Twitter, you would see that they are very much capable and enthusiastic about doing stuff like that. But you see that? So there's no proof for her little hoaxes that she keeps repeating, but she repeats them anyway. And then there is a ton of proof that we have all seen with our own eyes about the beheaded babies in Rafah. And what does she say? She goes, oh, well, I don't believe that because I haven't seen it. And the IOF wouldn't do that. No one cares about your fifis. I don't care if you haven't seen it. It doesn't make it any less real. Just because you haven't seen it, which by the way, she has, she's totally seen it. But just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Such a lies. And Rotten Ruby, this is exactly why I get so damn exercised when we're talking about this, is because you're right. There are many people that still believe this hoax. And they use it. And the reason why they did it was actually two reasons. Number one, because every accusation is a confession. They accuse people of doing what they do. And B, to justify their massacres of the Palestinians. They needed those made up stories and those hoaxes in order to justify the massacres of the Palestinians. Because if you were to just have said Hamas killed mostly military people, then people would not have been so eager to co-sign on their invasion into Gaza. So what they needed to do was do things that would pull at people's heartstrings. Babies, women being raped. They needed to have those stories so that they could excuse it in the eyes and the minds of the public to go in, when in actuality, those things never happened. And that's what they do to the Palestinians. Just the lies, the lies, the lies, the lies. All the lies.
Oh, well, that's what you say.
Did this thing really mute again? Have a chance to film themselves. Yeah.
Apparently, you know the numbers better than the UN and
the fire
the
that
army
raged through
and
that
everyone
refugee
else
camp did that damage
was
to that
tragic.
baby.
Was absolutely, and it was
But
tragic.
it's going to happen again and again if you bomb people in a
Yes.
refugee camp.
Well, we weren't aiming to bomb people in a
But
refugee
you
camp.
are
We were
going to
aiming
kill them
to
if you keep
eliminate
dropping bombs
terrorists with
in a
blood
refugee
on their
camp, aren't
hands.
you? You're going to
That's
kill
why
civilians.
we took almost 1 million people and put them in a humanitarian
And how
zone.
many have you left?
That's why we did.
How many have you left?
Which army in the world is actually warning ahead of time where they're going to be
Appealing to that one.
in order to put people out of harm's way, that its own authority, its own government
I
puts
just love
in.
that she can't defend it, so she just goes. She goes back to another talking point. She goes, "What army in the world would warn people before they murder them? What army in the world would warn people before they murder them?" And yes, that also doesn't take into consideration, which TK, you're right, just mentioned, of the Hannibal Directive. The civilians that were killed on October 7th by artillery fire that Hamas did not have. That's where we saw all those scenes from the Nova Festival of all those burnt cars and the burnt people in the cars, which is not something that Hamas that day had the capability of doing. They don't have Apache helicopters.
Harm's way. Nobody's doing that.
Where are they going to run to over a minute? I'm sorry, I have to say something. I have to say something. Where are they going to run to when? Just let me finish.
Maybe somebody should demand Egypt to help out
I've
here.
listened to you. Just give me 10 seconds. The Israeli government has bombed Gaza. There's over 1.5 million people displaced. They moved to Rafah for safety. What did Israel do? Cross Biden's red line, the greatest ally, United States, and bombed Rafah. These people, as Piers were saying, were in a safe space. They were in a safe zone, in a refugee camp, and now we have charred bodies and beheaded babies, and Benjamin Netanyahu says, I don't care. No ceasefire. I'm going to continue bombing Rafah. And now you've openly admitted they should go to Egypt. Now, if you want to send them to Egypt, which I know you do because you just said it, that is ethnic cleansing. That is ethnic cleansing. And that is a genocide.
No, why is
that would be a genocide.
That's so you're saying that at the moment
because you're bombing them out.
At least that. Okay.
That literally
is
what it is.
All I can say to you is this: Ukraine had a war, and all of the neighboring countries took them in temporarily in order to help them out in a situation.
No, you just want all their land. You just want all their land. That's why you want them to go to Egypt. That's ethnic cleansing.
Gaza. Now, not only are they not helping out, even temporarily, taking people out of harm's
way. Why
way.
is it Egypt's job to help out? Like when Israel's doing it to them,
smuggling in arms.
Because
look, I got no love for Egypt because I know that Egypt, the Egyptian border, is charging Palestinians like astronomical amounts of money to try to evacuate. But at the end of the day, how about why aren't you taking them? Okay, why isn't Israel taking in Palestinian refugees? Right, because they want to ethnically cleanse them out of the rest of the land so that they can steal it.
It's Israel's responsibility. Israel is the occupying power. Why should Egypt help? Israel should stop killing Palestinians. It is your responsibility. It is your responsibility. You are the occupying power. Why do you want to kick out?
First of all, you are the occupying power. And second of all, I can't stand the way that this bitch talks. She keeps repeating herself and like, we left in 2005. Like the way she talks is actually infuriating to me. We left in 2005. We left in 2005. What? What occupation? What occupation? Because we left in 2005. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Just the way she talks is just infuriating. And just her repeating her lies over and over again.
Where are we the
Palestinians to
occupying?
Egypt. And by the way, do you think
Where the
do you think
occupying power?
Palestinians will be allowed
Around
to return from
Gaza.
Netanyahu's Israel, where he says there's no two states? Do you think Ben Gvir and Smotrich will allow these Palestinians that you care so much about, that are going to move out to Egypt and Jordan? Do you think that the government of Netanyahu, your government, will you allow these refugees to come back? You know, all these hundreds of thousands of refugees that you've allowed to come back over the past 70 years? What would happen? Do you think they really will be allowed to come back to your Israel?
Listen, we never left. We left in 2005 and we pulled out
Nope.
8,000 people and their businesses and farms not to come back. Why did we do that? Why
Why
did we
did we
go
do
through
that?
all of that trauma?
And you're still
of pulling out
occupying.
people. No, why are we occupying? Because we tried to stop
Why are we
Iranians from sending
occupying?
bombs to
Am I
Gaza.
the only one
Another
getting
myth,
so
another
annoyed by
lie.
the way she
We left
talks?
in 2005.
We
If
left
you
in
let, okay, let me ask you this.
We left the
Let me ask
Palestinian
you
leadership
this.
to their own
Let me
devices.
ask you
And
this.
look what happens.
Let me ask
And
you
look
this.
what happens.
Let me,
Piers,
Fleur,
every
please
time
stop
we try
talking.
land
If
for
I'm
peace,
asking a
look what
question,
happens.
my question
Look
is
what
this.
happens.
Yeah, Amor,
My
you're
question
right.
is
She
this.
slips. We
If
never
there's no
left on
occupation,
accident.
how-
We left in 2005. And then she's like, we left them to their own devices. Oh my gosh, it's making me crazy.
is it that at the start of this war, Israel was able to turn off a lot of the water into Gaza, a lot of the food into Gaza, a lot of the energy into Gaza? If you're not an occupying country, how are you able to do that to another country?
A blockade is not an occupation.
What is
Yes,
it?
it is.
A blockade is not an occupation.
What is it?
Legally,
Yeah,
a
it is.
blockade is
What
not-
is it?
Well, first of all, there's trade. There was trade going on between Gaza and Israel before October 7th. We gave out
That's
20,000
not
work permits.
an
People were
answer.
working all
She's
across
Why are
deflecting.
Palestinians not entitled to
There
the
is
same
no
rights as
occupation
Israelis?
blockade.
They have their own. They had their own state.
They don't have the
No, they
rights of
don't.
Israelis. Why not?
because they're not Israelis.
Okay. Well, that's pretty conclusive.
I do like how if you corner them even a little bit, they fall apart. Like they have their standard set of talking points, But if you corner them a little bit, they fall apart. He's like, then why don't they have the same rights as Israelis? Because they have their own state. No, they don't have their own state. They're occupied by you. Well, because they're not Israelis. It's like so embarrassing.
Thank you.
They're not Israelis.
Okay.
They left in
Sometimes,
2005.
you know what?
Look, Piers,
Sometimes
they can't have
it's
it
good to
both
shine a
ways.
light because you get the right
can't-
answer.
No, let me tell you what light I'm shining. You can't have it both
You're
ways.
not shining
You want to be
anything,
Israeli, or do you want to have
actually.
your own state? You want to have your own autonomous territory?
I
or you
think
want to be part of
Palestinians
Israel?
want to have the same.
94%
Palestinians want to have the
Palestinians
same
in the-
rights as Israelis, and I don't see why they shouldn't.
But do they want their own state or don't they? Do they want to be part of Israel? Do they want a one-state solution or do they want a two-state solution?
Well,
What
let
do
me
they
ask.
want?
Okay, that's a fair enough question.
I'm asking.
That's a fair question. Let me put it
Why
to
do
Wajah.
they always act
What do you
like
What
want?
do they want?
Wajah, what do you want at the end of this?
At the end of this, I want justice, I want peace, and I want a pathway towards Palestinian self-determination. I think there has to be an end to.
why don't they just ask a Palestinian? How come they're always having this conversation around the Palestinians? What do you want? What do you want? What do you think we should do about the Palestinians? Why don't you ask them? Like, why aren't you ever asking them?
To the occupation. Israel's occupying Palestinians to its detriment. I want to just say, those who are supporting the war like she is, here's the failure of Netanyahu's war very quickly. Netanyahu said he wants to destroy Hamas. Hamas is not destroyed. Failure number one. Netanyahu says he wants the hostages back. The family members of the hostages are protesting Netanyahu because they know he doesn't care. Failure number two. He says he wants to make Israel safer. Israel's not safer. He wants to make the region safer. The region's not safer. He wants to help Israel's reputation. Israel's a pariah. Military solutions will not work. People like your guest right now think they could put the boot on the neck of Palestinians, create a symmetry where there is none, occupy people, and people resist that occupation and just die. Like they're just going to die. They're not. If you want an end, if you want peace, stop the occupation and give Palestinians a pathway towards self-determination. And if there should be two states, Piers, riddle me this. Why is Israel expanding settlements in the West Bank? What excuse is it? Please give us the excuse why Israel
could not agree
is
more.
occupying the West
Yeah,
Bank
why?
and expanding.
Now, watch her not answer it. because they have no answer to this. They have no answer to why they are doing illegal continued settlements in the occupied West Bank. I mean, they have an answer, but the answer is so atrocious that they don't want to say it on TV. They don't want to say it out loud unless it's only like the real radical right-wingers, settlers that are willing to say it out loud. Most of them are not willing to say it out loud because they know how bad it sounds. So let's see her not answer this question and dodge it.
I couldn't agree more. Fleur, why on earth does Israel think it's a good idea to expand settlements on the West Bank?
Well, first of all, you have to understand the context that Area A and B, which is where 94% of the Palestinians live, are under the PA autonomy. The fact that they haven't developed their own economy, the fact that they don't give people anything, the fact that East Jerusalem...
That's not the question. The question is why expand settlements knowing it is deeply inflammatory and often accompanied by violence? Why?
Because the settlements are not the obstacle to a two-state
Actually, they're one of the major obstacles, actually,
They're not.
Because if you keep seizing land
they're taking
with
up all the
settlers
land.
who are violent towards Palestinians, that is an obstacle. Yeah, it is.
What was the obstacle?
That's her answer. That's her answer. The settlements are not an
We're not in
obstacle.
1967. We're in 2024.
In 1967, a war was started. In 1967, a war was started in order to destroy.
See, this is what they always do. She could not answer that question because there is no excuse for the settlements. There is no excuse. And she can't answer that, so she brings them 1967. That's what they do. They always bring up the past because they don't know how to answer the question. Yeah, for real.
In 1948, a war was started in order to destroy it. There wasn't one settlement. So explain to me what you
And in 2024, Benjamin Netanyahu announced he would have 3,000 more settlements. In West Bank.
The settlements
Biden said no more settlements.
ridiculously
Netanyahu said
inflammatory.
3,000 more settlements.
They shouldn't be happening.
The largest cities and towns in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, are all under the autonomy of Mahmoud Abbas, who unfortunately is a corrupt
No, they're not.
dictator. What I wish for the Palestinian people is that they get the leadership they deserve. They get a Gandhi, they get a Mandela, they get somebody who's not either a kleptocrat or a genocidal maniac.
You'd kill them.
Hang on.
You'd kill them.
You know what?
No, we
You'd kill them.
Well, you know what? I actually wish that. If I may finish,
wishing that here in Israel.
If I may finish, I actually agree with you, Fleur. I would like that on both sides. I think Netanyahu is long past his sell-by date. The right-wing headbangers in his government are past their sell-by date. To get to a two-state solution where people can live peacefully with the same rights and same security and freedoms, you have got to get new leadership on both sides. And that is how we're going to leave.
I wish I could believe Land for Peace would bring us peace because we really want peace.
Okay, well, one said amen and the other one tried to equivocate. And that's the problem, Fleur. Sometimes you've got to reach an agreement on top-line principles, which is, isn't that what we should all want?
With leaders who care about their people. And I wish that for the
Palestinians. On both sides. I don't care. I don't think Netanyahu and his cabinet right now care about anything but themselves.
We've had many other prime ministers offering everything the Palestinians said they wanted, and they rejected.
We're going to leave it there. Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, thank you very much. Wahaji Ali, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well, former President Trump's bombshell guilty verdict has triggered a predictable outpouring of smugness and glee from celebrities and liberals. Barbara Streisand said that Americans must not allow this felon anywhere near the White House again. Star Trek's George Takei quipped that he should now be called 34 instead of 45. And Joy Behar from The View said she was so excited that she, quote, leaked a bit in Costco.
Yikes. That was so crazy, you guys. That was so crazy. Yeah. Just said the thing about the beheaded babies, that hoax, and didn't get any pushback, which is, it's so wild. It's so wild. I just think it's interesting. Please tell me you'll do her in a skit. Yeah, maybe I should. It's so wild that they always talk about the Palestinians without ever including the Palestinians. It's always talking about them and what they should do and what they should accept without actually asking them what they want or what they would accept. Yeah, for real. Yeah, indigenous to the Middle East, lol. Choose turns I hate under the jail. Yeah, they always say, the propagandists and stuff, how are Israelis supposed to live with Palestinians or near Palestinians or have a two-state solution or a one-state solution, whatever? How are they supposed to when the Arabs and the Palestinians want to kill all the Jews? But nobody ever asked that to the Palestinians. No one's ever like, or about the Palestinians. How come no one's ever like, well, how are Palestinians supposed to live near Israelis when they keep killing them? Like, how come no one asked that? No one's like, how are the Palestinians supposed to accept living side by side with the Israelis when the Israelis are always trying to kill them? Like, yeah, exactly. Ben Gvir arms Jewish settlers in the West Bank with guns. Yes, yes, he does. And it's funny because there's always all this talk like the Palestinians don't want to live in peace with the Israelis. They don't accept a two-state solution. But no one ever points out that the Israelis don't accept a two-state solution. The Israelis don't accept a one-state solution with everybody living democratically and equally. Their whole thing is Jewish supremacy and supremacy over the land. They don't accept living side by Palestinians, and actually they never have. The whole two-state solution thing was just the bullshit that they tell us in the West, but they never wanted that. Yeah, exactly, Jess Love. He brought up those hoaxes again, and no one was like, sir, actually, that didn't happen. I don't know why you're still repeating it. Hope she didn't block me yet, because I wanted to do this Brianna Wu thing. So hopefully she didn't block me yet. Got a lot of likes right away, so I thought it would have gotten to 1,000, but I guess not. Yeah, it would certainly be hard. All right, let me share the screen with you guys so you guys can see this. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I don't know I don't know what is going to happen with a Palestinian state. Now, I know that the occupation has to end. We all have to keep fighting for the occupation to end and Palestinians to get autonomy. But when it comes to whether it's one state solution or two-state solution, like that's something that we should be asking Palestinians. Like, because it should be up to them. That's the whole point of being autonomous, is that other people don't decide for you.